There's a moment in an argument when you realize you're no longer talking about what you originally started talking about. You're now defending your tone, your character, some version of what you said that you don't even recognize. And the other person looks completely at ease, like this is exactly where they wanted the conversation to go. You got pulled down, step by step, without noticing, until you're standing on ground you never chose. And afterward, there's that particular kind of tired. Not from the argument itself, from the version of yourself you had to become just to stay in it. Schopenhauer had a name for what just happened to you, and more importantly, he had a way out. Arthur Schopenhauer spent decades studying how people actually argue. Not how they're supposed to argue, how they really do it. And what he found wasn't pretty. Most people, he concluded, aren't arguing to find the truth, they're arguing to win. And they'll use whatever it takes to get there. He was so disturbed by this that he wrote an entire book cataloging it. 38 tricks people use to win arguments without ever engaging with what's actually being said. He called it heuristic dialectic. We just call it what it is, manipulation. But here's what's interesting. He didn't write it as a guide for manipulators. He wrote it so that people like you could see it coming. And that raises a question that's worth sitting with before we get to the tactics. If these patterns are so recognizable once you know them, why do we keep getting pulled in? Why do we keep engaging even when some part of us already knows it's going nowhere? The answer, according to Schopenhauer, isn't that we're naive, it's that we're human. He believed that underneath all of our reasoning, all of our logic, there's something more primitive driving us. He called it the will. It's the part of you that needs to be heard, that needs to be right, that feels something close to physical discomfort when someone dismisses what you've said. When someone argues with you in bad faith, that part activates before your rational mind even gets a vote. You feel the pull to respond, to correct them, to make them see, not because you've decided to, but because something in you has already committed. And here's the part that's genuinely uncomfortable. The same force that drives them to manipulate is the same force that drives you to engage. Their need to win, your need to be understood. Same engine, different direction. Schopenhauer's insight wasn't just that other people are irrational, it's that we all are, and that seeing that clearly is the first step to not being controlled by it. So what does it actually look like when it's happening? Because this is where most people get lost. They can feel that something is off, but they can't name it fast enough to stop themselves from getting pulled in. Here are 4 patterns Schopenhauer identified. Once you see them, you won't be able to unsee them. The first one is the stretch. You make a point, a clear, reasonable point, and instead of responding to it, they repeat it back to you in a way you don't recognize, bigger, more extreme. So you're saying nobody should ever have an opinion? Oh, so according to you, everything is just pointless then. That's not what you said, not even close. And when you try to correct it, that's not what I meant. They come back with, well, that's what you implied. And that's the trap. Because now you're not arguing your point anymore. You're trying to prove what you didn't mean, which is impossible. They didn't argue with you, they just rebuilt what you said into something easier to knock down. The second one is the laugh. And this one doesn't need words. It's a smirk, a scoff, a look around the room like they can't believe what they're hearing. Maybe it's a simple, "Are you serious right now?" Or a, "I can't believe we're actually having this conversation." Or they don't say anything at all, they just laugh. No counter-argument, no evidence, just the clear signal that your point is so obviously wrong it doesn't even deserve a real response. And here's why it works. Nobody wants to be the person who said something laughable. So you start softening it, walking it back, qualifying it. And just like that, a perfectly reasonable point disappears. Not because anyone proved it wrong, but because someone made it feel embarrassing to hold. The third one is the name drop. And it's actually a more interesting tactic than the others because it doesn't look like manipulation at first. It looks like evidence. Instead of responding to what you said, they bring in a name. Einstein thought this, scientists agree, everyone knows. And here's why it works. It sounds like a real argument. It has the shape of one. But if you actually look underneath it, there's nothing there. No engagement with your point, no reasoning, just a name being used as a shield so they never have to actually think. Well, Einstein said it, so that settles it. Scientists agree, so why are we even discussing this? Everyone knows, as if everyone knowing something has ever made it true. And it puts you in an impossible position. push back on the authority and you look arrogant. Accept it and you've given up ground you never should have. Either way, your actual point never gets heard. The fourth one is the turn, and it usually comes when they're losing. Because when someone has nothing left on the actual argument, they stop arguing the argument, they start arguing you. You're only saying that because you're angry. This is exactly why nobody takes you seriously. I'm not surprised you think that. And just like that, the conversation shifts. It's not about your point anymore, it's about your tone, your motives, your character, what it says about you as a person. Suddenly, you're not defending an idea anymore, you're defending yourself. Schopenhauer called this the last resort. When someone has nothing left on the argument, they go after the person making it, because it's much easier to make someone look bad than to prove them wrong. Here's the thing. Recognizing these patterns doesn't automatically protect you from them. You can watch someone stretch your argument into something unrecognizable and still feel the pull to correct it. You can see the personal attack coming and still feel the sting. Knowing the name of what's happening doesn't switch off the reaction. It just gives you a split second more than you had before. And that split second is everything, because that's the moment where you get to choose. Do you go where they're pulling you, or do you do something else entirely? And the fact that you're even asking that question puts you ahead of most people in that moment. Most people never stop to wonder why they got pulled in. They just feel bad afterward and move on. You're here trying to understand the mechanics of it. That's not nothing. That's actually the hardest part. So what does it look like in practice? Here's what Schopenhauer would tell you to do. The first thing is to name it. Not out loud, just to yourself. When you feel the conversation shift, when you notice you're suddenly defending your tone instead of your point, or correcting a version of what you said that you don't recognize, just name it. That's the stretch. That's the turn. Schopenhauer believed that if these tricks had names, people could catch them in real time. The naming itself breaks something. It creates just enough distance between the pull and the response for you to make a choice. The second thing is to give them nothing. This is harder than it sounds. When someone says something provocative, something designed to get a reaction, the natural response is to react. But the reaction is exactly what they need to keep going. It's fuel. Without it, there's nothing to sustain the conflict. You don't have to be cold or rude, you just have to be boring. Short answers, neutral tone, nothing that gives them somewhere to go. There's actually a name for this, the gray rock method. You become as uninteresting as a gray rock. And it works because it starves the thing that's keeping the argument alive. The third thing is to refuse the bait. When they turn it personal, when it stops being about your point and starts being about you, the bait is to defend yourself, to explain yourself, to prove that you're not what they're implying. The Stoics had a word for this situation. They called it the dichotomy of control. What's yours and what isn't? What they say about you, how they frame you, the words they choose, none of that is yours. You don't control any of it. What you do next, that's yours, completely yours. So don't take the bait. Your character is not on trial. Your argument was. And the moment you start defending yourself, you've accepted the terms of a conversation you never agreed to have. Stay on the point or leave entirely. Those are your two options. Both are better than taking the bait. The fourth thing is to reduce what they have access to. Not everyone who does this can be removed from your life. Some of them are coworkers, family, people you'll see again next week. But the relationship you have with someone isn't fixed. You can share less, keep things lighter, stop giving them the material they need to pull you in. This isn't about being cold, it's just about being smart with what you give people who've shown you what they do with it. The fifth thing is to notice what it costs you. After any conversation that leaves you drained, trace it back. Not the whole conversation, just the moment you felt the pull, the moment you chose to engage when you already knew it wasn't going anywhere. Schopenhauer believed that the quality of your inner life, your thoughts, your clarity, your peace, was the most valuable thing a person has, more valuable than being right. And every time you engage with someone who has no interest in honest exchange, you spend some of it. You don't get it back. Once you start noticing that cost clearly, you start making different choices. Not because someone told you to, but because the arithmetic becomes obvious. Most people will recognize all of this and still engage tomorrow because the pull is that strong. But you've just done something most people never do. You've seen the machinery underneath. The stretch, the laugh, the name drop, the turn. You know what they look like now. And once you can name them, you can choose. Not to win, not to withdraw in defeat, but to simply decide that your intelligence belongs somewhere better than the bottom of someone else's argument. That energy goes somewhere, into the people who actually want to think alongside you, into the conversations that leave you sharper, not smaller. Schopenhauer called that the inner life. He spent his whole existence protecting it. Now you know what you're protecting too, and why it's worth it.